Welcome to the PTW podcast where we just wrapped up week 12. And yes, the Detroit Lions made it to 10-1, beating the Indianapolis Colts. I think cementing the fact that they are probably the best team in the NFL, Tossie.
Yeah, it seems like at this point of the season, they are the best team in the NFL, and especially the other 10-1 team, Kansas City, just barely beating the terrible Carolina Panthers. It goes to prove that the Lions are on their way. Let's see.
Let's see.
We'll see
There's
how
a
it.
team
We'll
in the
see how things play
AFC.
out.
There's a team in the AFC, though, that might be vying for that best team in the NFL crown. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more here on the PTW podcast starting right now. Okay, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Week 12 podcast of the PTW podcast. My name is Amir, your host of the PTW podcast. Alongside with me, as always, is Tossie, the football Greek, feeling
What's
a little
up?
down this week because his, Brandon Allen just didn't give the spark the team needed to continue.
Yeah.
Tough road loss to Green Bay. I myself might be feeling that this Thursday also with a tough road loss in Green Bay, but we'll see. We'll talk about all of that
Yeah.
on this episode. But how you feeling
No,
overall, man?
honestly, like if we talk about the game, about the Niners game,
Let's
pretty
talk about Week
bad.
12 in general. Yeah, let's talk about Week 12 in
Yeah.
general.
I think as far as week 12 goes, it was an interesting week. There was a lot of upsets, a lot of fun games. That Cowboys Washington game, definitely a big upset.
What an
The
incredible thing that
Texans
was.
Tennessee game, that was a big upset.
Mhm.
Like both division games, like those things happen in division games. You get like teams know each other so well that you're going to get
Mhm.
these strange games where you expect the other team. There's no way the Texans are going to lose to the Titans, right? There's no way the Commanders are going to lose to the terrible Cooper Rush led Dallas Cowboys. But no, it happened.
By the
So
way, both games on the road. Cowboys
yeah,
winning against the Commanders on the road. Tennessee
yeah,
beating Houston on the road.
crazy, crazy,
Incredible,
crazy
right?
stuff. And
Yeah.
then also, I don't think we already talked about it, but like Cleveland beating Pittsburgh. I mean, there's just some crazy things.
Yeah.
As far as my Niners go, I mean, that was the worst loss to Green Bay in franchise history. And
Mhm.
it was interesting because at halftime, they Packers had dominated pretty much the whole game, and then the Niners, had a nice drive. Scored. George Kittle played an awesome game. He's the only guy on the Niners that played well. Got the touchdown, and then they come out of the halftime, and Deebo Samuel has like an 86-yard kick return, and then they call this like ridiculously terrible holding call, and it brings it back, and then the drive stalls. They give the ball back to the Packers. The Packers don't do anything, and then they have the ball again. Get down to their side of the field. They don't kick a field goal to make it a 7-point game. What they decide to do is go for it on 4th and 2. They don't get it. Then Packers go down. They score. Then they get the ball again. They're driving. Deebo Samuel goes through his hands, intercepted. And then again, Packers score. Then back again. Christian McCaffrey fumbles. Packers score.
It just
Game
wasn't
over.
meant to be. It
It
just
was a
wasn't meant to be.
snowball. It was a snowball effect. It was a all-around terrible game, and it was a sad day to be a Niners fan. But
Welcome to the sub 500 club, my friend.
I know we're here.
Welcome to the sub 500
We're
club.
here.
Both 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Still, though, your division is within reach.
Yeah.
The NFC
Everybody's
West is
gonna
still very much within reach. Seattle
Yeah.
beating the Cardinals, now with them being atop of the division, which is
Yeah.
hilarious because a couple weeks ago, the Seattle Seahawks were the worst team in the division.
Yeah.
They were the
So it
4th
shows
team in the
you.
division. A lot can change. There's still,
Exactly.
6 games left in the schedule.
There
There's
is.
still plenty to go. But let's talk about the rest of Week 12, man. You pointed out some of those games. Listen, at the beginning of this podcast, you have predicted, and I think many people have predicted that a couple things were going to happen. A, the Houston Texans were going to win their division. B, that CJ Stroud was going to be a surefire MVP candidate. Both of those things don't seem very true
Yeah.
right now. The Houston Texans do not look great ever since Stephon Diggs has been injured. And CJ Stroud is having it's hard to say having a mediocre season, a sophomore slump for sure.
Yeah.
Right. And then on the other side of the coin, right? We talked about this so many times about not giving up on players. Like these are NFL caliber players for a reason. Look at the resurgence of Bryce Young since Andy Dalton's car crash, okay? Look at how decent to good this guy's been playing the
Yeah,
last 3 weeks.
it's
Homeboy
a wake up
almost
call.
beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and all they had to do was give us some rest, learn under the tree of Andy Dalton. Did they change OCs, by the way? I forgot what happened. Did they change OCs in the middle of the season? They
No,
did. They had to do something because all of a
no,
sudden a light switch has gone off for this dude, and he's starting to figure it out. He's starting to see the field a little bit better. He's starting to play a little bit better. He's starting to
yeah,
stay in the pocket a little bit more. Look at what's
he is
happening with
playing
Bryce
better.
Young, right? And
Yeah,
you see the resurgence of what's going on there. Caleb Williams, ever since they changed the OC in Chicago, all of a
yeah,
sudden is having some monster games. They're not winning, but is
yeah.
that Caleb
It's
Williams' fault or is that just the
yeah.
team in general, right?
I mean, they were
There's
in OT this week against
yeah,
Minnesota, and then last week, they got a field goal blocked, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
showing. So literally, Chicago, they've kind of had some unfortunate miscues at the
yep,
ends of games, and it's
yep.
cost them. But they're actually playing really well, and they have a really good defense as well. So,
Hmm.
team to watch out for moving forward here. I think they still can make a little run here because they're still in position. I think.
Yeah, yeah. And then you talk about Tennessee going to Houston and I mean
Yeah,
shocking the world, upset of
yeah,
the week for sure. You talk
yeah.
about you know, the Arizona
Washington.
and well the Wash oh, let's talk about that Washington game.
Hmm.
Let's talk about
Yeah,
that Dallas and Washington game because
that game
that
was
was the
crazy.
craziest string
Fourth
of
quarter.
drives I've
Yeah,
ever seen. I mean, in recent memory
yeah,
at least. You talk
yeah,
about a what was that? Like a kickoff return that by all
yeah.
accounts should not have
I know.
made it all the way to the end zone.
He
Just like
literally
kind of like
fumbled to the
nonchalantly
one.
grab the ball at like the 1 yard line, kind of like jogged a little bit, did one of
Just a little
these
spin move and go.
and left,
Zip.
which was
Turpin.
insane.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Only for Washington to turn around and get the game tying touchdown that they
Yeah.
needed with like
Yep.
seconds left, with like 40 seconds or 35 seconds
Yeah.
left in the game,
Yeah. Like
to
an
then miss the extra point.
yeah. On like a crazy like it was an 86 or 87-yard touchdown to McLaurin,
Unbelievable. And then
and
to miss
then
the extra
and
point.
then they missed the extra point. That was wild, man. That was
And
the
then,
most
so they're down by one.
crazy
They're like,
loss.
crap, now we got to kick an onside kick. They kick an onside kick. And I don't think in my life I have ever seen an onside kick returned for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Has that ever
And then
happened
they
in the
so they
NFL?
give
I've
the
never
ball
seen that
back to
before.
him, right? So that only puts them up 8 at that point because they were up. Washington was up 1, so Dallas was up 1.
Yeah.
So the coaches are like, "What are you doing, bro?
Yeah,
Why are you
exactly.
scoring that touchdown? Because
Just
now they still
play.
have time to go tie the game." It was so crazy.
It
Like
was
the coaches were
incredible,
like
man.
yelling at him on the sideline, like,
It was
"Dude, yeah, I
incredible.
know you want."
But listen, man, Dallas very sneakily could win a few games. We were talking about them,
Yeah.
being down and out last week. They win this
Hmm.
game against the Commanders, a surprising win. They've got the Giants on Thanksgiving. The
Yeah,
Giants,
a winnable game with Danny
are you
DeVito.
kidding me? Winnable? It's the most gimme game like of the season. The Giants are doing nothing.
Yeah, they're in
They're doing
shambles.
absolutely nothing. I
Yeah.
mean, when Malik Neighbors is basically being like, yo, dude, it wasn't the quarterback. It's very obvious it wasn't the quarterback. Like, we're
Yeah.
having issues.
Yeah, the
And
coach.
I mean, if a rookie is coming out and like criticizing the team like that, that
Yeah,
locker room is in shambles. That team is in
it
shambles.
is.
And it's
It
like,
is. It's a New
you
York
think the
way of
Dallas
mind.
Cowboys are gonna beat the New York Giants? Of course they're gonna beat the New York Giants. Like at this
Yeah.
point, like
I
it's not even
I would I would
a
say so, especially
question.
after coming off that momentous win, and like their defense played really well against Washington, and like we kind of talked about, like Jaden Daniels. I mean, he had a good game because he had that really long touchdown, and that
Mhm.
was kind of like a fluky play to McLaurin.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. But like he still really hasn't been playing as well as he was earlier in the season.
Yep.
Something's up with him. Like, I don't know if it's an injury or something, but he doesn't look like he's the same. He's starting off his back foot a lot, and he's not playing as well. But Dallas Cowboys defense, I mean, they got Micah Parsons back. They're playing a lot
Hmm.
better. They had a huge game, and they're gonna have another huge game this week. I mean, I think in fantasy, I definitely try to pick their defense back up because I know a lot of people drop their defense. It's definitely a good week to play their defense against the Danny DeVito led. I know it's Tommy DeVito, but I just like saying Danny DeVito just because it's hilarious. But I guess the Tommy DeVito led
Do
New
you
York
do you think it's
Giants.
fair to say that the problem with Jaden Daniels is that defenses and DCs have figured him out? They've figured out like his style and all that kind of stuff, and now he needs to get to that next level, right? He had that burst, that flourish of
Hmm.
being awesome in his first like let's say half the season as a rookie. DCs have
Yeah,
figured him out. They figured out how he works, how he reads the field,
yeah.
all that stuff, and
I
now
think
it's catching up to them, because they've lost
yeah, a
three in a
lot of
row.
it. Yeah, a lot of it is like he was super accurate, and they were like, like they're probably doing a lot of quick passes and things like that. Like they weren't doing a lot of like, like high level passing game. It was like probably dumbed down for him. And then, so your defense can kind of like start to like read that and be places, before he throws it, and it makes it harder, right? Or they, they're
Hmm.
going to where the receivers are supposed to be on those timing routes and like, stopping it. So I think like that's very like that's pretty common in the NFL. Like, look at what's happening with the Niners, right? Like, they know that the Niners are going to go in these in breaking routes, so they're like they cannot get any separation. So like it happens all the time in the NFL. These guys watch so much tape, they know so much
Oh yeah, dude.
about everything that they can like basically when they come lined up, they know exactly what play they're going to run. So it's like very difficult. You got to be a master of being able to manipulate and then also call audibles and do those things at the line to be able to read the defense and then make the proper adjustments so you can make have a better play. And like when you're a rookie, that's just not going to happen. You're going to need more time to be able to do that to get to, kind of you
Yeah,
got to adjust back if as Jane Daniels is learning right now. You got to adjust
yeah,
back,
yeah,
moving forward.
yeah.
Something that CJ Stroud probably isn't doing as well this year, right? So
Exactly,
that's why he's struggling a little bit more in his second
exactly,
year.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm happy because my team made it to 5-6, winning three in a
Yeah.
row.
Yeah.
Clean
We
sweep of
called
the
it.
New
That
England
was pretty
Patriots.
easy.
That's
That was
that
pretty
was an
easy.
easy game. At one
Finally,
point, they
right?
were up 31-0, and
Yeah.
then they take Tua out of the game. Skylar Thompson comes in, and on his second play, it's a fumble recovery for a touchdown for the New England
Yeah.
Patriots, and Tua comes right back into the
They're like,
game,
no, we're
which
not
was
going to do
they're
this.
like, we're not going to do
Yeah.
this. But
Yeah.
yeah, no. So I'm very excited about
Jaden
what's going to
Waddle,
happen. The Jalen
big
Waddle
game.
had his best game of the year
Monster game.
for him. But I'm excited to see where they're going to go for Thanksgiving
Tyreek
versus
Hill,
Green Bay.
bro.
That's going to be a huge game against Green Bay. Tyreek will find his place.
It
Don't
is.
worry. Tyreek's been dealing
I'm
with a hand
hoping.
injury
I'm
pretty
waiting
much
every week for
the
this
entire
guy to
season.
like have
It's going to
like a
happen.
big game, and it
It's going to
hasn't
happen.
happened. It happened 1 week, week
I'll
one.
tell you
That's
why.
it.
I'll tell you why. Because the defenses are figuring out that Jonnu Smith is a problem, right?
Yeah.
They're so busy double teaming Tyreek and Waddle that Jonnu Smith is basically open. And so
Yes.
Tua is going to
He
him
had a huge game.
all the time.
Yeah.
He's been having huge games the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who's
Yeah.
having the best season in the NFL right now, Tasi? It's the guy
Yeah.
that plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles
Yeah.
beat the Los Angeles Rams, and I think it is safe to say that this year might be the first time that we have a running back as an NFL MVP in a long,
Mm-hmm.
long time because Saquon is killing it. 300
Yeah.
plus yards from scrimmage,
Yeah.
which is just an insane
250 yards
stat.
rushing,
It's just
or it
an
was more than
insane
that,
stat.
like 255. It was crazy, and
Yeah.
two long
And
touchdowns, killing it.
Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni laughing all the way to home.
Yeah.
Anyone who criticizes him, his coaching style, the way he is in general, me included, is
Yeah.
is laughing it up because I think it's one thing to say that like Nick Sirianni is a good coach. I think he's a decent coach, but I think what's even more prevalent, more relevant, more obvious is that the people that run the Eagles organization know what the hell they are doing
Yeah.
because to pick up Saquon and to pick up,
Mm-hmm.
all the pieces that they've gotten, like AJ Brown, and to draft the way that they've drafted,
Yeah.
look
They
how it's
drafted
working out
really
for them,
well.
man. Look how it's working out for
Yeah.
them right now.
Yeah. Honestly, the Eagles at this point are probably like 1B to the Lions 1A and the
Yeah,
NFC.
yeah,
And I think we'll talk about it a little bit later. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth. But Saquon in particular, he's definitely having an MVP type season. He's having a very similar season to Christian McCaffrey last year, almost a little bit better. So I still don't think he's going to get MVP. Like they're going to give it to a quarterback. It's just become a quarterback award.
award.
So
Yeah,
I still think that
it's going
Josh
to Josh
Allen
Allen.
is probably the
It's going to Josh
leading
Allen. Yeah,
candidate right now for
yeah,
NFL MVP. And then
yeah,
behind him, it's like Lamar again. And, Mahomes, these guys are going to be in the running for it. Whoever ends up being the top seed in the AFC is probably going to win it. But, for me, I think Saquon will definitely win the Offensive Player of the Year award, much like McCaffrey did last year. It's kind of like what they reserved, like that position player, that's not a quarterback award for, right? So it seems that that's where that is going. Like, so to me, even though Saquon is definitely should be a really good candidate and probably is the best player in the NFC right now, as opposed, like, he's better than any of the quarterbacks, I would say. Like, even like Jared Goff, who's having a really good season, I would still say that Saquon's having a better season than him. But I don't think he's going to get the MVP award. I think that's definitely still going to go to a quarterback like Josh Allen or Lamar, or even Mahomes.
Okay, well, this week, I think the games get really real, right? So we're getting into the Thanksgiving slate of games, moving into December football, and the AFC playoff picture is ridiculous. The NFC playoff picture is also taking shape. We've got 3 games Thanksgiving as per tradition now. Detroit has a game, the Cowboys have a game, and this year the Packers have a game. So we'll start with the Detroit game. They're the morning game. The Chicago Bears travel to Detroit. What are your thoughts on what's going to happen there?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a Detroit 11-1.
I think so.
Of the Bears.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean,
but division game again. We just saw 2 examples of road teams winning their division games, right? In the Tennessee Titans, and remind me of the other one. The Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, right? And so we saw 2 examples of games that should have gone the other way, right?
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I think Detroit they're on such a roll that it's just
Detroit's rolling right now.
It's different.
The only thing to watch out for is David Montgomery got hurt in the last game, and he may not play because it's a short week. Like, he was out pretty much the whole second half of last week's game. So, looking forward, Jahmyr Gibbs. If you have Jahmyr Gibbs in fantasy, like, he's probably gonna have a monster game because if he's not splitting carries with David Montgomery, you're talking about if you play him like in daily fantasy or if you have him on your fantasy team, like. He's already going to be in your lineup no matter what, but man, he's probably going to have a monster Thanksgiving Day. He's going to be eating those turkey legs, the Chicago Bear turkey legs all day. So, with their running game, like the way it goes, like they're definitely going to win the game. I think Chicago will put up points, like unlike Indy. Like, we thought that Indy wouldn't put up points or was going to put up points, but they didn't. They only put up 6. Like, so Anthony Richardson is back. But I think Caleb has been playing a lot better, so I can see them scoring some points, but they're not going to be able to keep up with Detroit. Detroit is on such a roll right now. They're just going to keep cruising, head to 11-1. I'm with you.
And like we talked about earlier, like the OC change for Chicago has done wonders for Caleb, but I don't think it'll be enough to dethrone Detroit, at least for this week. The afternoon game is the lowly New York Giants, the New York Giants that's, again, there's turmoil in that locker room. Who knows if Brian Daboll comes back next year? Who knows if they're just going to implode this whole thing and start fresh all over again? I mean, hell, you gave up on the season by letting Daniel Jones walk, basically.
Yeah.
With 8 games left, 7 games left in the season. They travel to Dallas for their traditional Thanksgiving game. And what seemed like a game that going into it was going to be like, oh my God, one train wreck team versus another. Hey, Dallas just won a division game on the road against the Washington Commanders. Cooper Rush, feel the rush, might be coming back. You never know. Let's see what happens here. They could go on a roll and win 2 games in a row this week.
Oh yeah, they're gonna win 2 games in a row. Dallas actually, I think they're 5-6 right now.
They are 4-6. I want to say
4-6. Okay. Do they still have a bye? They still have a bye? I would check their schedule or their record, but I want to say, like, if a win to like this week puts them at 6-6, essentially, which would be the same as the Niners' schedule, right? So, I think moving forward. I mean, you went dark.
No, sorry, I'm right here. I was checking. I was fact checking. I apologize. I didn't realize I was going to do that. I was fact checking. The Dallas Cowboys, by the way, they're 4-7. By the way.
Okay,
They're
all
four
right.
and seven.
So
So
maybe we
so they'll go
let's
to five.
maybe
They'll go to 5 and 7. But listen, the rest of their schedule, I might go dark again. I might go dark
yeah
again. But the rest of their schedule is actually not terribly difficult,
yeah
right? So that they could have this run of games. You never know.
yeah.
But
No,
they'll at
honestly,
least make it to 5 and 7. I agree with you on that.
you know, like Cooper Rush, like he could find that magnitude from last year, right, where he won a
Hmm.
few games when Dak was out,
He
and
was four and
like there
one, I
was even
think.
some question like, oh, should Cooper Rush be the starter, right? So like there is a chance that they could go on a little run here and make a little noise at the end of the season. I definitely they're definitely going to be able to beat the Giants. The Giants are in shambles. They're
Mhm.
done. Like we talked about, like we talked about earlier in the segment, the other segment that Dallas defense, if they're
Mhm.
out there in fantasy, pick them up because they're going to have a huge game
Ooh,
again against Tommy DeVito
yeah,
and the
yeah.
hapless New York Giants. So
Oh yeah.
I definitely think the Dallas is a good play here, good bet on Thanksgiving Day.
The evening game is my beloved Miami Dolphins, fresh off of a
Mm.
three-game winning streak, which should be a five-game winning streak if the defense does their job against the Arizona Cardinals and the Buffalo Bills. We have a
Yeah,
three-game winning streak that's on the line, going on the road. Game time temperatures are projected to be 27 degrees, where it'll feel like 16 degrees. It's not quite the ice bowl from the Kansas City playoff game last year, but they travel to Green Bay for a night Thanksgiving game. What are your thoughts on this?
yeah. So honestly, the Packers were impressive last week, but they weren't really that impressive.
Mm,
Like the Niners really made a lot of mistakes, and they actually should have picked Jordan Love off twice. They had
mm,
two interceptions where they just dropped. Jordan Love did not play that well. And Niners, if they would have had a better game, if they would have made all those mistakes, like mistake compounded on mistake, they probably would have beat the Packers. Even after the Packers had went out to that 17-0 lead, I think they could have easily, if they just would have played better and not made the dumb call, like dumb holding call, the dumb penalties, the dumb interception, the fumble, like all this other stuff that happened. If those things would happen, they play clean football in the second half. I bet they win that game. And so looking forward, I think Miami, they're playing well right now. They're finding their offensive groove. Tua is back, throwing the ball, like airing it out a little bit more.
you can
Devin
make an
Achane
argument
doing his
that
things.
Tua is playing the best football of his NFL career in these last 5 games.
Yeah,
Just playing
for
monster
sure.
football, you know? I think personally, this is the homer in me, and I don't care. I'm wearing my shirt today. I'm wearing my hat today. I think that this is the game because Miami's run game has struggled the last few games. It has been very reliant on Tua to Jonnu Smith, Tua to Jalen Waddle, Tua to Devon Achane, et cetera. So that has been
Yeah,
what has worked. And people keep forgetting, like, yes, Miami played terrible against Kansas City, but that was like an ice game. The last snow game that they played was against the Buffalo Bills, in
yeah, I
which they
remember that game.
almost won. They
Yeah,
almost won that game. And so here's what
was
I'm
a couple
thinking.
years ago.
Raheem Mostert has been absent this season, and it's by design because two things. Number one, Raheem got injured towards the end of the season last season, where they really needed him for weeks 15, 16, and 17, and he was pretty much banged up and couldn't play. Miami squeaking by week 17 to get into the playoffs, or week 18, excuse me, to get into the playoffs.
Yeah,
But number two, because he's fumbled the ball a few times, they've relegated him to RB3. I think this is the Raheem Mostert redemption game because they are going to have to play some tough, hard-nosed football. They're going to have to run that ball. They're not going to be able
yeah,
to throw it as much. It's going to be 20-mile-per-hour winds, yada, yada,
yeah.
yada, all that kind of stuff. And I don't think Devon Achane is an awesome running back. He is not a bruiser, okay?
No,
He's not. And Jalen
no.
Wright,
We
I
talked
don't
about this.
quite know if he is a bruiser or not. But Raheem
Yeah,
Mostert can take it.
yeah.
He's got a
He's
big
gonna
body.
fall forward.
Yeah,
He's gonna get those extra yards. Like he's
yeah.
always done it. And man, look, he's got a good history against Green Bay too. Last time he played them in the playoffs, he had 4 touchdowns. Like back in
Hmm.
2019, right? We're en route to the Niners Super Bowl appearance
Hmm.
against Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Hmm.
So annoying thinking about the Chiefs, but
But my prediction is that Miami. I'm gonna pick my team. I think they
yeah,
have so much momentum going on right now. Granted, they beat the Rams, they beat the Raiders, and they beat the Patriots. Okay, like we're not talking upper echelon teams, but we're talking a team that was 2-6, that is now 5-6, that is one win away from going back to 500 after being 4 games away from 500. And that
Yeah.
will it will be huge because the Chargers just lost,
Yeah.
right? Denver's got KC still. They've got a
Yeah.
few other games that they've got to play. So this thing that I talked about a few weeks ago, a few episodes ago, if you haven't followed us, follow because I've been talking about this. Where when they were 2-6 and they were about to play the LA Rams, I talked about, hey, they could very easily go on a run. And here
Yeah.
we are in the midst of that run, right? They are 3 games in, all three that they should have won. They did win. They were
Mm-hmm.
underdogs in that Rams game and they won on the road and 2 at the home. Here they go. They will need to kill this narrative of like not being able to beat good teams, number one, and not being able to, win games in December on the road, number two.
Yeah. And it's going to be a good test, but I think the Packers are beatable. Honestly, I wasn't that impressed. Like, even though they shellacked the Niners, like I said, I wasn't that impressed. And I think that if Miami plays their game, which they've been playing the last few weeks, and their defense has been playing better, and so with that said, I think they can, cause some turnovers with Jordan Love. They got to really stop Josh Jacobs.
That's the big
Josh
test right
Jacobs
there.
been the beast.
That's the big test.
He was having cramps last game, so it's a short week. So let's see if that affects him at all. I mean, I'm sure it shouldn't, but if he was having cramps in the last game, but he was running really hard, like the first man, that guy was unstoppable. So
yeah,
like they got to stop Josh Jacobs, and if they can do that, and they can keep playing their offensive game, I just want to see Tyreek Hill do something, bro.
this might be
do
the game.
something.
This might be
Score
the
some
game.
long touchdowns, man. Do
In
something.
that in
Make me
that in that
excited.
KC game last year again, the playoffs, he scored the only touchdown of the game for the Dolphins, and in those crazy temperatures. And he's used to playing in that weather because when he was with KC, they played in that sort of weather on a regular basis. So those are our thoughts of the Thanksgiving week preview. We wanted to do something fun for this episode, something that we talked about when we stopped recording the last episode, and we're like, we should have this be part of the podcast. And so we're gonna finish our podcast with this topic, and this topic is this. Back in, I believe, 2002, the NFL decided to it's a couple of things that happened. The NFL had added a few teams to its overall roster of teams. The NFL used to have 30 teams, and then they added the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Carolina Panthers, making them a 32-team league. Well, they didn't have many places to go because some divisions had 5 teams and some divisions had 4 teams. The NFC West was one of those divisions that had 4. And so they put the Carolina Panthers in the NFC and they put them in the NFC West. The Carolina Panthers started out as an NFC West team. The Jacksonville Jaguars went to, I believe, the AFC Central, because that was the only division that had 4 teams as well. So back in the day, it was the NFC West, the NFC Central, the NFC East, and the AFC West, the AFC Central, and the AFC East. The NFL realigned everything and made the 4 divisions that we know and love today. But there's been some glaring issues with those divisions that I wanted to bring up. And this is the question of, did the NFL mess up the division realignment? And I argue yes as a Dolphin fan. And let me state my case right now. The Miami Dolphins are located in Miami, Florida. Miami, Florida is in the state of Miami. I'm sorry, yeah, in the state of Florida, excuse me, which is in the south, is in the south. And
Very
Miami
south.
is the southernmost tip of that state. There are two other teams in the state of Florida. They are the Jacksonville Jaguars and they are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Riddle me this, Tossie. What division do those 2 teams play in?
They've all both play in the AFC South respectively and the NFC South respectively.
They play in the AFC South and the NFC South, and Miami is more further south than they are now. The reason why Miami stayed in the South, Miami had, they were in the AFC East, which had 5 teams. The current 4 that you know and love, the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets, the New England Patriots, and the Miami Dolphins, and the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis was the 5th team in that division. They moved Indianapolis out of that division because Miami, quote unquote, wanted to keep their division rivalries alive with the Jets and the Bills and the Patriots. And to that I say, screw your rivalries, because if you had moved to the South, which you should have, and Indianapolis, Indiana, which is not in the South, would have gone to the East like they should have stayed, Miami could have won a hell of a lot more championships, at least division championships, because you had to deal with Tom Brady's ass for 20 plus years. You had to play this dude twice a year for 20. I remember the day I saw the division realignment, and I was like, this is a terrible idea. Why
Yeah,
did they do this? Because you're talking about they could have played the Houston Texans twice a year,
yeah.
the
The
Tennessee
expansion of
Titans
Houston, Texas.
twice a year, the
Yeah,
freaking who's the other team? I can't even remember right now. The Tennessee Titans, the
Jaguars.
Houston Texans, and the Jacksonville
Jaguars.
Jaguars twice
Yeah,
a year. And
another
then you want to make
expansion team.
another expansion team, and you could have been like, oh well, there's two Florida teams. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Screw you. There's two California teams in the NFC West. Don't tell me
yeah,
that that's not possible. It is possible. The LA Rams
yeah.
and the San Francisco 49ers are a 1 hour flight away from one another. Don't give me that
Hmm.
nonsense. The Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals are in the same division and they're in the same state. I don't want to hear this
Yeah,
nonsense of like, oh no, well they were trying to keep the division rivalry alive. Dumb. And they were they were both in the state of Florida, so that didn't work. Dumb. It just
yeah.
doesn't work out. And then when
And
they did
just
the division
imagine.
realignment, the NFC West had the St. Louis Rams in it. It didn't make
Yeah,
any sense, dude.
maybe they always thought all along that they were going to move them back to LA. Is that what it
Maybe,
was? But
maybe.
when you think about this, think about if the Indianapolis Colts would have been in the AFC East. So Tom Brady and Peyton Manning
We
would
would
have
have
been
gotten it twice a
squaring
year.
off
Twice a
twice
year.
a year for their entire career. It would have been amazing. The NFL
Yes,
screwed this up so royally, and the
absolutely.
Dolphins helped screw it up because they wanted to maintain their stupid rivalry to get their butts kicked by the New England Patriots for 20 years. It's
It's
amazing.
like, no, we want to keep our New York Jets rivalry alive.
Yeah,
Screw your New York Jets
the New
rivalry.
York Jets.
The Jets are the most poverty franchise. Listen, I'm sorry to New York Jets fans, but your franchise has been a poverty franchise for a very long time. And case in point, this current season. Okay, I don't want to
Yeah,
hear that like, oh, like this rivalry was more. No, winning is more important. Division
yeah,
titles is more important. Going to the playoffs is more important. And even still, the
exactly.
division is messed up. The Kansas City Chiefs are in the AFC West.
Yeah,
That doesn't make.
why?
They should be in the
Why?
AFC. They should be in the
The
AFC
cake
North.
division.
They should be in the
They're in the
AFC North. It doesn't make
exactly in
any
the hard
sense
division with
whatsoever.
Baltimore,
Yes,
with the Browns, with the Steelers.
and with the
Like,
band, but then you
but
would argue, okay, well, you have one too many teams in there. What do you do?
yeah,
You're
you
right.
make that. You put one of those guys in the NFC.
You could exactly,
Who
exactly
would you move?
because the
Cleveland,
N-
the two,
well
one
the
of the
N-
two Ohio teams, huh?
well the
Either
NFC North is also all North teams, right? You've got
yeah,
Chicago, you've got Detroit, you've got Minnesota, and you've got Green Bay. That division
yeah,
makes sense. You know what
yeah,
doesn't make sense is the NFC East, and this is another example of we wanted to keep our rivalries alive.
yeah.
The Dallas
Cowboys,
Cowboys are an NFC East team.
yeah, yeah,
Really? With the New York Giants, the Washington Commanders, and the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is where things are messed up, right? Because the Philadelphia Eagles are in the East, while the Pittsburgh Steelers, same state by the way, are in the AFC North.
yeah. Doesn't
That
make
makes
any sense.
sense.
Yeah, it's like when they realigned, like
That
you're
makes
saying, like
sense.
the only kind of realignment that did make sense, and because St. Louis moved back to LA,
Is the NFC West.
is the NFC West because
And that's
they're
because
all West teams
they
and they're
moved
all like in different
Seattle.
states,
This was the only
except
team,
for
by the way,
for the Rams and the Niners.
right, but that they moved Seattle. This was the only team that moved
Yeah,
conferences.
they moved the conferences.
They moved Seattle out of the AFC. Seattle was an AFC team, and they
They were
moved
an
them
AFC
out of
West
their
team, right?
AFC West team and moved them to the
Yeah,
NFC West. And then this is case in point. Oh, we don't want to lose
yeah,
our rivalries. You,
yeah,
Niner fan, how big of a rivalry is the Niners and Seahawks rivalry?
yeah. It's been a huge rivalry.
It's
So
been
like they
big.
basically created a new rivalry based on just playing a team twice a year and then having
Exactly.
Russell Wilson and all that kind of drama with the Legion of Boom and the Niners facing off with them, and especially in those that playoff game, where Crabtree, Sherman tipped the ball and Crabtree, it got intercepted and he's like called him punk or whatever he did, he's like went off on Aaron Andrews, and Aaron Andrews was like, what's going on? This guy's insane. Which was crazy. But like I think, so instead of like, okay, well you could have kept Seattle in the AFC West, right? And
Yeah.
then you could have taken maybe the Cowboys,
Hmm.
instead of the Chiefs, and put the Cowboys in the NFC West.
Oh God. Then you have
Because Seattle was
Cowboys Niners
staying.
twice a year. You have
And
Cowboys
then
Niners twice a year.
would go to the AFC East. So then you would have the Cowboys and the Niners facing off twice a year. Twice a year. Like, and this was during the heart of their like rivalry, right? In the 90s. Like they were such big rival, like the biggest rivalry.
There would have been too many casualties in the stadium, bro. I think they did that to save lives. That would have been the
ultimate, bro. Like, why not
they did that to save lives.
Like, bro, come on. Like they had it all in the bag. The NFL had it, man.
The NFL had the ability, to your point, to have Brady versus Manning twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
The Dolphins could have won a hell of a lot more division titles.
The Dolphins, Dan Marino could have came out of retirement and
a hell of a lot more division titles.
Actually won a Super Bowl.
Jeez, bro. But it's not even just that. There's so much that could have happened.
Yeah.
To your point, I think the only divisions that geographically make sense, both in the AFC and the NFC, is the North Division. Those are the only teams those are the only divisions that that geographically that makes sense. But Kansas City, Missouri, folks, look at a map. It's not in the West. It's not even close. No. It's not even at the halfway point of the country. It's very much east.
They just put them in that division. So like, hey, you know what? You guys are gonna the cake division.
You know what? You could have done. Moved Kansas City to the AFC. Moved Kansas City to the AFC East.
Yeah,
moved
East.
The Colts to the West. Why not? And then Miami to the South. And there you go. You could have gotten Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady towards the end of his career twice a year. You could get Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen twice a year. I mean, like you like again. I don't. None of it makes sense. It still boggles my mind to this day. I actually wouldn't be opposed to this idea of like every few years reshuffling this damn thing.
Yeah.
Like the World Cup does, dude. The World Cup has their 32 teams, and then they pick, blah, blah, blah. Like you get like 2 badass teams and 2 teams that are kind of lower tier, and that sets you up for upsets, that sets you up for this, that, whatever, the next thing. Why not? Division rivals are irrelevant at this point, bro. You're going to play these teams once every 4 years at least anyways. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, I mean, dude, you and I, a couple years ago, went to Levi's to watch the Niners and Dolphins, and here they are this year playing each other again. Completely different conferences. It's like, there's none of this, like, oh, teams don't play each other anymore. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
You could change things up and just make it interesting. Why not?
I agree. Realign the realignment.
Realign the realignment. I don't want to play the Jets twice a year. I'm tired of the Jets. I'm tired of the Patriots. I'm tired of the Bills.
Let's shake things up.
I'm exhausted, man. I want to play some other teams. Seriously. And then my luck, like they'll be like in the division with like the Ravens and like the
they'll be in the AFC West.
they'll be in the North. They're like, oh, okay, we'll put you in complete different hemispheres.
You want to mess with realignment, buddy? Here you go.
But we can't have everything.
Dream.
We can only dream. This is a friendly reminder to like and subscribe to the PTW podcast if you haven't already. We're doing 2 episodes, although this week we will not be doing a Thursday episode because of Thanksgiving. Maybe we'll do one later in the week. Stay tuned for that as we preview the Sunday slate of games.
Probably a Black Friday, maybe. Black Friday edition.
We're not shopping around trying to get
50% off
85-inch TVs to like take up all of our wall spaces. We'll see. But nonetheless, again, thank you so much for joining us, listening to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you're watching us, on YouTube, or wherever you're listening to us as well. It has been a pleasure doing this with you all. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't mind the background change. Technical difficulties, had to go figure some stuff out. Until next time, my name is Amir. This is Tossing the Football Greek. We'll see you all later. Take care.